Three drivers are still in contention for the world title fight as we head into Abu Dhabi after a disaster of a race for McLaren in Qatar. Max Verstappen is staring down the barrel of what could be his greatest ever championship. There is a lot to get into to discuss from the Lusail circuit in this episode of Inside the Piranha Club. I'm Rebecca Clancy.
And I'm Ben Hunt.
All right, let's get into it. It was unquestionably a McLaren mistake. Lap 7. To explain very quickly, Pirelli had come into this race saying the tyres might not last, and so they had mandated that they could only be used for a maximum of 25 laps. There were 57 laps of the Qatar Grand Prix, which means, very simple maths, that if anything happened on lap 7, that you could then pit from there and you would have 25 laps to do another pit stop, and it would all be groovy. So in my head, if I'm the strategist, I have a massive post-it note in front of me that says, if anything happens on lap 7, i.e. a safety car, get them in straight away because you basically end up with a free pit stop. And there was a lot of talk about hindsight after the race from the McLaren team. But when I was watching it live, and I was thinking, pit, 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 pit. I was literally shouting at the TV, and you can't tell me they didn't have enough time because Max Verstappen, who was currently running second, did stop. And the McLaren pair were the only two, apart from Ocon, but that's a different story, to stay out. So only of the front runners, let's say. It was ridiculous to watch live. It was ridiculous to listen to them talking about it afterwards. It was just a massive, massive mistake from McLaren, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
They've got their knickers in a twist.
Ridiculous to watch on an aeroplane. It was ridiculous. I think, look, it's all come out of this Papaya rules and trying not to favour one driver over another, which we are kind of applaud in one sense. But of course what that means is it means that they're struggling to be ruthless when they need to be and make that decision and pull the trigger. And they should have pitted both drivers. We know that now, and I think Zach Brown admitted that it was their mistake. They're just too cautious. Sometimes you need to be a bit more brave, I think, with regards to strategies and just putting it all out there and rolling the dice. And I think that they've created this scenario for themselves through, keeping this approach, which on one hand is great, but ultimately it could cost them, or could cost one of the drivers the World Championship. So, what do you pick, the harmony or missing opportunities? Because ultimately you could end up at the end of the season with two drivers that are just totally despondent because they've missed the chance to win a title.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely loads to unpick here. So let's start with McLaren's CEO, Zach Brown, as you mentioned, and Andrea Sella, the team principal, were saying after the race that if they had chosen to double stack them, because, as in, you bring both cars in pretty much at the same time, because Norris was so close in what was then third, because Verstappen had a brilliant move off the line and jumped him into second, Norris would have lost a couple of seconds just by being disadvantaged as being the second car if they were double stacked. Therefore, they didn't do it. Now, here is what I don't understand. I understand perhaps not pitting Piastri because you don't want to give up track position. And as they said after the race, we weren't sure everyone else was going to stop or not. Although, again, the math suggests that it was actually unbelievably good timing. But so, okay, don't stop Piastri, but stop Norris, because he's lost out through his own driving a place. Split the strategies. If you have both drivers doing the same thing, you're not going to get ahead. So why not pull in Norris at least? And then there's obviously been all this chatter this season about how McLaren are favouring Norris. Zach Brown and Norris have a history that goes way, way back. Actually, them not pitting Norris suggests that they aren't actually favouring Norris at all, because if they had stopped Norris, you probably could have argued that it was in his favour. But by not splitting the strategy, by not bringing Norris in, they have got themselves into such a muddle. And actually, I think Verstappen summed it up best. He was joking after the race saying, I don't even know what papaya rules mean, but I'm grateful for them. And he's right, because he was saying that, he hasn't, if he wins this championship, he is in the position he is in, which is just 12 points behind Norris. He is now second in the championship. And Verstappen is out there saying, look, I'm not here through anything I'm doing. I'm here because McLaren can't stop making mistakes. And he was asked flat out about it again last night in Qatar. And he said, yep, it's another one. Meaning McLaren made another mistake. He could not believe his luck that the two McLaren cars stayed out.
No, he can't. And I think that his body language was fantastic to watch yesterday in that Parc Fermé interviews where he's, got that massive smile on his face. He just can't believe that he's still in this championship fight. And, 10 points now, the gap, he can see
12,
it.
12.
12 points, is it? I thought it was 10 points. Why have I said 10 points?
Well, because we're going to come on to it. The Antonelli incident.
Oh, yes. Well, look, he can taste that championship, and I think that's the thing. He had obviously been at peace with losing the world crown, but now he knows he can still retain it. So, what a fantastic opportunity for him. I think this would be such a fantastic comeback if he was to do it. Everyone will be looking at McLaren and thinking, how have you stuffed it up? But take nothing away from the way that he's driven and the way that he's managed to pick up points, even when he hasn't had the car to do so. It's been an unbelievable season for him, irrespective of where he finishes in the championship. And, the body language was great to watch yesterday in that Parc Fermé interview, and then obviously on the podium as well. And, he's celebrating, and when Oscar Piastri walks out and collects his trophy, he doesn't even look at the team. He sort of just waves and then just stands there and deeply unhappy.
Let's talk about Oscar Piastri because he's had a difficult run, I think it's fair to say, since his last win in Zandvoort.
Yeah.
And he was brilliant this weekend. He was exactly the Oscar Piastri that we had seen at the start of the season. He was utterly dominant. He deserved that win yesterday. It was taken from him by the team orders, getting it wrong with that pit stop call. I cannot imagine how bruising it must be for him. Because as you say, he was very brutal in his comments, almost by what he didn't say. Because he should have won that race yesterday. And it would have got him in a much stronger position heading into the next weekend. He now finds himself third in the championship. And if you're Piastri, you're probably thinking, I literally can't get a break here. I should have won that race. And then through no fault of my own, I've lost the win. I've come back fighting and I still cannot get a break.
That's a really hard one to take, isn't it? I think.
The most brutal, I think. I felt for him the most.
Yeah, I agree. I can only imagine what he's feeling coming into this final race now. He's probably just wants this season to be over, I would imagine. Yeah,
let's talk about Verstappen because for me, he goes into this weekend in Abu Dhabi with the least amount of pressure on his shoulders. He's moved into second in the championship. Yes, he has. Okay, fine. He's also very familiar with this feeling. And the thing that's really kind of surprised me is this interview that Zach Brown and Andrea Stella did with Sky a couple of months ago, which has resurfaced. And in it, they were saying how they would rather Max Verstappen won the Drivers' Championship than they favoured either one of their drivers. And I was thinking, that for me is just crazy talk.
Yeah.
But it's not too dissimilar to what happened in 2007, where Kimi Räikkönen was kind of just having a great season and doing what he does. The McLaren pair of Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, as it was then, they were going head-to-head with each other. McLaren refused to favour one of them, and Räikkönen won the championship by 1 point. And he closed the gap massively in those last two races, won the championship, and that's how it was. And look, we've got to talk about Stella here because he has a lot of experience. He was Raikkonen's race engineer back in 2007. He was with Schumacher when he lost out on those championships in 97, 8 and 99. Yeah. He has been around the block. He knows these feelings. He knows what it's like. And still we are in a position where McLaren are saying they're not going to favour a driver. Okay, I respect that. And I actually don't think they probably should favour a driver heading into the race. But let's say we get to lap 20 and it is pretty clear how it is unfolding. And Piastri can't win the championship and Norris needs a little bit of help. They have to make the call, don't they?
In Abu Dhabi?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Because you can't race in Abu Dhabi, right? And it's one of those tracks where you need a wingman. And let's be honest, Max Verstappen doesn't have a wingman in Yuki Tsunoda. Even though Lauren Mekies, team principal of Red Bull, has come out and said, we could do with Yuki Tsunoda being at 100%. No one thinks that's going to happen.
Well.
But McLaren are going to have to make, I think they're going to have to make a really difficult in-race decision.
Yes, but ultimately, I think that with it being the last race of the year, they would probably be within their rights saying that they've got to favour the driver that's ahead or the one that's most likely to win
But they won't. You
the
know they
championship.
won't.
I think they have to, don't they?
I agree with you. I think they have to, but I don't
No,
think they will.
I think they will. I think they would in the final race of the year. They
Going
have.
into it, not in race, pre-race.
No, I don't think. Mm, yeah,
Or like, what if Piastri qualifies on pole and Norris is third? Because
yeah,
Norris just has to finish on the podium to win the championship. Third is
yeah,
enough for him.
yeah. Um, I don't know actually.
It is really hard.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think there has to come a time when they realise that it, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, obviously teams go out for the constructors' championship, but having got that already, it should allow them to concentrate on getting their drivers over the line as well. Um, I think they would have to pick one, wouldn't they? They would have to pick Lando. I think going in, and I think Piastri probably knows that as well. Maybe that's why he was so dismayed at the weekend with the
Yeah.
result. I think they will pick. I think they have to.
Publicly or privately?
They would do it privately.
And you're picking Norris.
Yeah,
It's only 16 points. It is quite a lot, the gap now.
I mean that's big for one race, right? If you're
Yeah.
starting with a head start like that, then you know you've got to say that he's in front, and it's always the driver ahead that gets preferential treatment. Sorry, Oscar, that just has to be Lando in this one race.
So, how does Verstappen approach the race? Because in the battle of mind games, he is really cracking me up. Because he said if he'd been driving that McLaren, he'd have won it
Yeah,
he'd have won the championship a couple of races ago. He now walks into Abu Dhabi, I think, actually as favourite because there is no pressure on him. Okay, it's not in his hands, and
yeah,
it's very much in Norris's hands. He just needs to be on the podium, which sounds straightforward, but obviously it's been a bit of a tricky couple of races. Norris hasn't been on the podium for two races, obviously with the mess that was Vegas of them getting the double
yeah,
disqualification and then finish fourth in Qatar. But if I'm Verstappen, I'm going in thinking, do you know what? Oh, I think this might be mine.
yeah. He'll be, but doesn't he think that every week? And I think that's the difference that puts him apart from everyone else. We've seen when he starts right at the back, it's kind of like a Lewis Hamilton of old. Put him anywhere on the grid, and he believes that he can win the race. So that's his mentality. That's always been the way he has been since being in Red Bull, and obviously having that car that's superior to everyone else. Or actually, not. That's not right because the car wasn't superior to everyone else at the start of the year, but certainly having a good car, shall we say? But I think that his mentality is always, yeah, let's go for it. And I think the way that he's coming into this weekend is just very, very relaxed. He is at peace with whatever happens in his mind. I think that moment came earlier in the year when he realised that he was going to lose the crown, and the fact that he's still in this title fight is just a bonus. If he wins it, it will be his best championship win and to have five is special. I know four's special, but that moves him into another
Yeah,
tier, if you like. Vettel won four world championships, and he's definitely a better driver than Vettel was. So,
100%.
I just think he's got all that freedom and the pressure off, and I reckon he'll win in Abu Dhabi. But I think Norris will do enough to win the title.
Yeah, I would much rather be Verstappen right now. I think he's going to have the more relaxed week going into it. Talking of Red Bull, we are expecting an announcement. We're recording this on Monday. We're expecting an announcement tomorrow, Tuesday, from them on their driver lineup.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be shocked, are we? I think Isaac Hadjar is going to get the nod and be promoted up to be Verstappen's teammate.
He's been super impressive this year. When I think back to that first race, which feels like years and years ago, that disaster in Australia, and the heartbreak of sort of what went on there. Since that moment, I've been really, really impressed. Not only by his driving, but his attitude as well. He's come in. He had a little bit of a reputation of being a bit of a hothead, but I think that we've seen a maturity. I haven't really seen much of that hot-headedness. he's not only had that, but he's also been quite. He's not afraid to get his elbows out, is what I'm trying to say. Like he's mixing it, and he's talking openly about being a Red Bull driver next year, and I think that's great. That's someone that's got a lot of confidence, and I've really enjoyed watching him develop as a driver, and I think that the same for Ollie Behrman, but totally different people. One that's
totally
very
different.
subdued and quiet and just knuckling down and getting on with it. And yeah, disappointing weekend for him last weekend, but Hadjar's been great to watch. Really, really good. And I'm not sure that he's got a world championship in him just yet, but he's still young, and who knows what that Red Bull car is going to be like next year.
Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls says he hasn't heard anything yet, although he's very much found his way back to form after obviously having his confidence annihilated, I would probably guess, after being dropped by Red Bull down to that junior team. And then the fight is between Tsunoda. Does he stay in the stable? Does he become a reserve driver? Does he get let go altogether? Or does Arvid Lindblad get the call up from F2? I guess we'll just wait and see.
Yep, that's what we're going to do. I think Red Bull make their announcement, and then Racing Bulls will do theirs in due course.
Yeah, I suspect it'll all be done on the same day. Call me a cynic, but I think they might just be one team with 4 seats. Anyway, let's talk about Ferrari quickly. Another terrible weekend for them. Another weekend of the drivers speaking openly, much to their chairman's dismay, I'm sure, about how terrible the car is.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no hiding it, is there? And I said in the preview show to the disappointing thing is that one week it's good and next week it's bad, and that lack of progress is really concerning. And again, another weekend which should have been a good weekend for them, and ultimately wasn't. And I think that there are some big issues that need to be addressed here by Ferrari.
Yeah, Pierre Gasly said to Lewis Hamilton that the car looked terrible as well. So it's obviously clear, and they were racing around at the back with each other, so Gasly had plenty of time to look at that Ferrari. So if he's saying it...
Yeah, and I think that's, that'll probably do Lewis some good, but it will also reinforce just how bad it is, how terrible this year's been for Ferrari. And to think that Carlos Sainz has had 2 podiums for Williams, which I'm sure we'll get on to, and that's fantastic, but still no podium for Lewis is huge.
Yeah, I mean, what odds would you have got on Lewis Hamilton not having a podium and having replaced Carlos Sainz and sending him down to what looked like a demotion to Williams? Carlos Sainz, a brilliant drive, yet again, from him to finish 3rd on merit.
Mega performance, absolutely.
He's brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah, lovely bloke, great driver, team's going places. It's a very happy ship there at the moment, which is great to see. Upwardly mobile. Everything that we're talking about at Ferrari with the, going backwards and disharmony and feeling dejected. It's the opposite story at Williams. There's lots of positivity coming out there, and that's great. Brilliant. Great to see.
Yeah, James Vowles, the team principal, has done a brilliant job there, hasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, they talk about culture and, turning it around. And when he went in, he was very honest about the picture that he found, and it was never going to be done in a day. And it's taken a little while, but they're slowly getting there, and that's good to see.
And fair play to Doralton, the owners, who have given him that time. James Vowles has been very honest with them about what was needed, the investment needed, and what needed to happen, and how long it would take, as you say. And so it's very good to see that. Let's talk about Mercedes quickly. A very strange weekend for Mercedes, I thought. George Russell just kind of not really at the races and wasn't particularly hard on himself afterwards, but didn't have a great start and then just kind of ran around, and it was just a nothing weekend for him, really.
Yeah, I thought that they would be better than what they showed. I think it was a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
They had plenty of potential in that car. He was on pole last year, wasn't he, when he was fighting Verstappen? So I thought that maybe there'd be a similar repeat, but it wasn't to be. And obviously a disappointing result for Kimi Antonelli at the end, when he made that mistake and allowed Norris to go through. And that's opened a little bit of a can of worms. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but obviously the quote from GP on to Max about
Oh
it
yeah,
looked like he pulled over and allowed Norris through. Um, he's
which is a
now
bit naughty, isn't it?
it's a bit naughty, yeah,
It's a
but
real
it's
pot stirrer.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know why he said it really, but he did, and of course the consequence of that is now poor old Antonelli, young kid, getting loads of online abuse, and he's had to sort of turn his social media off, which no one wants.
I wasn't when I heard GP say that. I did. That's not okay. Antonelli is a 19-year-old guy. He is a racer. He would never pull over for another racer. The conspiracy theories are saying that because McLaren are obviously an engine customer, that Antonelli was told to move over.
Yeah,
That didn't
ridiculous.
happen. It didn't
Absolutely
happen.
ridiculous to
It's
suggest that.
utterly ridiculous, and I actually think GP deserves a bit of a rap on the knuckles for even suggesting that that's what happened.
Well, it's quite important that the FIA step up here, and I would suggest Red Bull as well, and put out a statement because what he said was unacceptable, and this kid's getting heat. And if the FIA are serious about their anti-online hate campaign, which we've heard enough about from the president, then come out and say something. You
Yeah,
need to
agreed.
stand by a driver when he's faced like this, especially when it's a young kid. It was just a mistake.
It was a
He
mistake. He had Lando Norris breathing down his
yeah,
neck, knowing that there's a world championship at stake, and he didn't just like move out the way. When you watch it, if you watch it from Norris's onboard, he loses it through about three different corners, and then eventually the car just gets away from him. But he's made a mess of it long before that. So
yeah,
it's not, that's difficult. I mean, these guys are professionals, obviously, but he didn't do it deliberately, and I think it's really naughty actually that
yeah,
that comment and the obvious has happened. It's inciting people to give him, it's not good. I did
yeah.
not approve of it.
No, no, I agree, and I do think Red Bull needs to come out and say something.
Yeah, excuse me. I do massively agree with you, and I suspect Abu Dhabi, which is the season finale, coming thick and fast this weekend, is obviously a triple header to finish the season. I would expect some fairly strong language to come out. Obviously, Toto has come out and said it obviously didn't happen, but I
Yeah.
suspect the language will be ramped up a little bit to say
Well,
it's
it
not
was
okay.
reheated, wasn't it? Because Marco said the same thing, or doubled down on it. So
Repeating GP.
yeah, yeah, and just
Yeah,
doubling down on
how
the
very
error.
helmet Marco.
Yeah, it
But I
just
do agree with you. I do. The FAA, right? They have this entire program about online hate, and
yeah,
actually, GP's fueled it, so there should be consequences.
yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
you know.
it's a mess. Well, I mean, there's always something to talk about in this sport, isn't there? My goodness me. And as I say, we do go to Abu Dhabi next, so we are going to do a preview. I will be in Abu Dhabi. I think it's going to be utter carnage. We'll do our preview after I've been around to speak to all the different drivers. It will be so fascinating to see how they spend the next 2, 3. Where are we now? Monday, 2, 3 days.
Yeah,
They'll obviously head straight there. I don't suspect anyone will be going back to factories and doing sims. It will be, just staying on the time zone. They are a mere kind of 40-minute flight from each other. It'll be really fascinating to see what they do, how different it is, who's spending the next few days. I suspect Verstappen will be spending it on a beach. I suspect the McLaren guys will be sending it in debriefs. But all the pressure is on McLaren, isn't it?
to get it right, yeah, I think, and it runs through the whole team. Like, no one wants to be accountable for costing a driver a world championship. So that's not just strategy, but it's pit stop. It's anything. Do you know what I mean? Even down to the chef, I guess, making sure the food's right or whatnot. But it's everyone within that team. They're going to be feeling the pressure like never before. It's all character building. I remember Abu Dhabi last year and sitting down with Norris and doing an interview, and he was still kind of in the hunt, although not really. And it was kind of a case of he was happy with how he had pushed Verstappen, and he said at the time that he'd learned what it took to win a world championship, and part of that was being ruthless and prepared, and the pressure and dealing with it. Maybe he's learned how to do with it, but McLaren still need to figure that out, it seems. They haven't had a driver win the World Championship since Lewis did in 2008, so it's a hell of a long time. There's very few staff in that team that would have been there from that moment. So it's all about learning, and unfortunately you're doing it in a rather pressurised and public sphere, and they've got to get it right, whereas Red Bull have had no issues with that for a number of years, and also favouriting one driver over another. That's very much in their DNA. So it is going to be fascinating. I'm not sure whether they will come back or not. I mean, it's more than likely. Yeah, you're probably right saying that they will stay out there. But yeah, I mean, look, a few sleepless nights, I'd imagine.
I'd say a fair few sleepless nights. And as I say, we will be back to preview the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. You can absolutely guarantee there will be news between now and Thursday when we record. There is so much going on. What country are you currently in, Ben? Are you back in the UK?
I'm in the UK.
Will you be in Sweden by Thursday?
Yeah, I'll be in Sweden by Thursday.
Oh, look at us, little globetrotters.
Yeah.
All right. So we will be back on Thursday looking ahead to the big climax. 3 drivers still in the title fight heading into the final race of the season. It's going to be very exciting. Until then, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please do rate and review us, and we will be back next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.